Boop. Happy Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, March the 8th, 2022. Today's daily Bible readings come to us from Psalm 17, Zechariah 3, 1 through 10, and then 2 Peter 2, 4 through 21. I'm going to take a look at Zechariah and talk about that time John Wesley almost died. Um, and so there were actually two, really, well, I mean, there could have been many more than that. Well, there are many more because if like multiple times just when he was crossing the Atlantic back and forth on his failed missionary trip to Savannah, Georgia. Um, but I'm thinking about two in particular. So there's two of them, and the first time was when he was just a kid, and the parsonage that his family lived in caught on fire. Now, if you don't know what the word parsonage means, so his dad was a priest, a minister in the Church of England, and they lived in housing provided by the church. It was the house that the parson lived in, so it was the parsonage. Anyway, the family was living there, and it caught on fire. It was called the Epworth Rectory, but anyway, it caught on fire, and so John Wesley was saved at the very last possible minute by the men of the parish who kind of formed a human ladder and got him out of this second story window, if I remember correctly. Um, and saved him and gave him to his mom, and she found him. He was a little singed and a little smoky smelling, but his mom, Susanna Wesley, responded by quoting Zechariah 3:2, "Is not this a brand plucked from the fire?" The second time, which is pretty interesting because I just found out about this myself today, later in life, and this is recounted by his brother Charles Wesley, who he actually went to Savannah, Georgia with, the Georgia colony with. He recounts this time when his brother John was terribly ill. He's racked with what Charles calls the galloping consumption, which is apparently pretty bad. But it was so bad that all the people around John and John himself didn't believe that he would make it, to see his 52nd birthday, much less the next morning. And so John, like I said, was so convinced of his own death at that point that he actually wrote out his own epitaph, to have written on his headstone, so that they would have that taken care of when they kind of found him in the morning. And so he wrote this on his epitaph. He says, and remember, this is like, 1750 something. He says, "Here lieth the body of John Wesley, a brand not once only plucked out of the burning. He died of a consumption in the 51st year of age, living after his debts were paid, not 10 pounds behind him." I should say leaving after his debts were all paid. That's in parentheses, literally. And he says, "Not 10 pounds left behind him, praying that God be merciful to me, an unprofitable servant." So, in other words, he was saying, I was plucked from the burning twice, and for a purpose, and I gave everything I had. I only had like 10 pounds left to my name, which wasn't much. He's also really famous for living on very little money and giving pretty much all the money he had away. And he was saying at the end of his life, "God have mercy on me because I should have done more." And it's not just him being self-righteous and super holy. But spoiler alert though, for all of this, he doesn't die. He actually survives this. So it's like, really twice he's plucked out of the burning. And he doesn't get to use his epitaph, well, at least not right away, because he lives for another 36 years after having survived the galloping consumption. So why Zechariah 3:2? Well, I think that John Wesley and his mom, they had maybe had a better and a more humble notion of where they stood in relationship to God. They realized that they, like Joshua, like the priest Joshua here that Zechariah is talking about, they stood rightly accused in the face of a righteous God. And it is he, they understand, and we should understand too, that it is God who spares them and spares us for his purposes, like a brand plucked from the burning. And brand plucked from the burning to become a spark used to catch others ablaze, to a flame that is spread to spread righteousness throughout the land. And that's what Wesley aimed to do with the gift of his life, not just after this fact, but before this fact too. He's having survived his near-death experiences crossing the Atlantic and all the fear that caused and the questioning of his faith, and probably thinking back and realizing that he could have died as a child in the Epworth rectory in the parsonage fire, but God had spared him like a brand plucked from the burning so that he could do great things for God. And that's a telephone call. Anyway, that's the DBR for today. Get out and enjoy the day, and we'll talk to you later. Boop.